Hey, what's up, you guys? My name is Wolf, and welcome back to LEGO Arts. So, in the last episode, we did a showcase on Levi from Attack on Titan, and for this episode, we are doing the Mandalorian Wave 3s. So, in this showcase, we got the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, and Boba Fett, all in their Season 2 armors. So, I wanted to expand out to some more Star Wars characters that, after doing the Bad Batch, and sort of taking a step back from doing some more Clone Trooper minifigures, I decided to expand out to covering like some other iconic Star Wars characters, and I wanted to go back to the Mandalorian for a while, but I didn't want to do another Din Djarin minifigure, since, and it's like, depending on the character, I don't like to do repeats on certain characters, but I decided to do, for this character, just like a particular showcase, I decided to do a new version of Din Djarin, but also including a Bo-Katan and Boba Fett minifigures, and I'd say these came out pretty cool. There was more paintwork involved into each of them, and I'll explain like further on as I go. So, as you guys know, the whole drill, we're gonna take these minifigures one at a time, do review them, explain my process, why we're up this route, and then go from there. So, without further ado, let's get the pedestal out and get the showcase on the road. So to start our showcase off, we have none other than the Mando himself, Din Djarin. So this Mando was definitely different from the other two, because this armor was made by Nate's Minifigs. I'll include a link to their website in the description below. So a majority of this minifigure was like pre-done. All I had to do was just like assemble it all together. So the base of the body is just like a basic, blank brown minifigure body. And then I went in and with each of the armor pieces, glued them on to their respectful areas. So like giving the shoulder pads, the torso piece, even the belts and the legs, just glued all of them on, and then went back with the paint and carefully painted all of these components, being careful to make sure I didn't get any like unnecessary paint around the figure. On the back, as you can see, he's got a magnetic jetpack, which is cool, so we can remove that off. You can see here we got some micro magnets, and the belt even continues on. He's onto the back, and down here at this key, at the belt piece on the bottom. And while this is on here, we can go ahead and continue on onto the back. You see he's got a shoulder cape this time. This piece was actually from an old Boba Fett minifigure that I had like lying in my drawer. So I decided to just take this cape. Take this cape piece, cut it up a bit, repaint it into a dark gray, and then come back with some detailing. I did this with my first like Din Djarin minifigure, so I wanted to continue that on. The helmet mold I really like. I think it's really cool. And before we're gonna move on to the helmet, as you can see, like on the waist sides, he's got like a couple of the fabric pieces that I had in and with the last Din Djarin minifigure, but just painted them on this time. And this time, there is a limited like movements for this one. Like the legs, I can move them, but there is a limitation with them because of like the knee pads in with this one. An idea I almost thought about having would be like taking the Dremel tool, drilling holes into those legs, and sort of doing like how I made Cyborg from Justice League, but I didn't want to risk damaging the legs too badly, so I just went ahead and just like glued them on. I'll probably try that in the future as sort of like an experiment, but for now this is sort of like the overall idea. Anyways, we can go ahead and remove the helmet, and you can see this very nice printed face that I purchased from Firestar Toys, and this is a really nice face print. It's like on the front, he's got like his normal like neutral expression, and on the back, he's got like this sort of like beat up, bloodied expression that I believe this was the first time. This was like from the first time that we saw him remove his helmet. So it was like a pretty cool like added detail to it, and I think they did a fantastic job at this face design, because I feel like this really captures like Pedro Pascal's like facial expressions. Also, furthermore, onto the figure, you can see that we got like the mud horn like printed onto the shoulder pad, which I think is fantastic. The gloves I painted on again, but came in with like a sealant this time to make sure that the paint would stay on. It does look like a paint and like was chipped off and on this hand, so I'll go back and fix it. I do think that the hardest part on applying this that when it came to like applying on for the armor was this belt. Is like this belt piece that goes all the way around the shoulder because it was a pain for it to stay in place while the glue dried. So I had to get like one of those gripping tools and make sure that it like would stay in place long enough for the paint to like fully dry. But go ahead and adding those on. And as we'll pull back the weapons. So first up we got this and we got the Beskar spear. A spear that was made by Tomino, aka Micro Me. I did a showcase involving like some of their printed molds when I did the Doomslayer minifigure. And after seeing like how they made like this Beskar spear, it's just like I have to get it for this one, for this Din Djarin, because I think it looks really, really awesome, and it's a fantastic mold. And also we got the Dark Saber. So this was also made by Micro Me. You know what I mean? I know I had a Dark Saber previously, but that one was very flimsy, and I didn't enjoy it, so I wanted to get a new one. And even though this one doesn't have the like white, it's like sort of electric energy that the blade would have, I think this still looks really, really awesome. Awesome, like the way how they made this blade and the handle piece, and the fact of how they like applied on the paint and sealed it up, and that's where like if putting it onto a minifigure, the paint doesn't chip off. I think it just looks really, really awesome. And overall, this turned out to be like a really cool Din Djarin minifigure to make. In fact, that even though there is like lack of limited movement with the legs. And like apart from that, this was really, really fun, and I really like how this version of Din Djarin came out. Next up on our list is the Princess of Mandalore, Bo-Katan. So this minifigure, I was definitely excited to get it painted to because I really like the design of her armor, and I wanted to try and replicate that for minifigure format. So the base of the minifigure was a printed minifigure that I purchased from Firestar Toys, but painted up in most of the detail. Painted up to match it up a bit more with how she appears in the live action show, but they tried to leave in as much of the detailing with the legs as best they could, because I really like how the printed detailing looks, and I wanted to like leave in as much as I could with it. So with the rest of the minifigure, it was kind of an interesting process of putting it together, because some of the parts for this, like obviously like most of them were glued on, but some of them I had to put in with a little bit of Procreate clay, sort of like a second stabilizer. So one of the things that I modified was the jetpack. And first, let's remove that and look at the back. You can see that this is like the same sort of like printed like back piece of armor that was made for like Din Djarin with like this shoulder strap in for you'd put in like the piece and like the belt strap. These holes I drilled in for the micro magnets. As you can see, this one came out lopsided, and the jetpack was a modified piece that came in with the minifigure, but I cut off the bottom parts. Bottom parts are sort of like the miniature thrusters. Put in some micro magnets with some Procreate clay. But looking back at this, I could have sawed off more of the back to make it appear not quite as clunky as it kind of looks like in comparison to the other jetpacks. This one looks a bit more clunky, but I learned from that mistake, so I'll know better. I'll know to do better in the future. The armor pieces were a little bit difficult to glue on as well, but luckily they managed to get into place. You can see like my poor attempt of painting on the owl symbols on each of the shoulders. I tried following along like the best photo reference as I could, but unfortunately didn't entirely turn out fine. But yeah, can't hate too much on it. Anyways, the blasters were also provided with the minifigure. These look really, really nice. And the helmet is probably one of my favorites. Granted, the owls, the like owl eyes on here could have turned out a little bit better, but I'm still practicing on this stuff, so I won't give myself too much crap. The blue base that I gave for like a majority of the minifigure was sort of a mixture of my own making. Again, that I painted up all together. This is sort of like the second base painting that I made on for like a majority of the armor pieces. I think all except for the torso and the belts. But it was a really nice color that I wanted to stick with. The white the white paint, I'm beginning to learn that white paint on minifigures is a difficult thing to work with. I don't know why, but it's sort of a thing. But I tried to smooth that out as best I could, as I could, and it's not terrible, but it could have turned out a little bit better. I painted on some gray, sort of like representing, and sort of like the interesting shadow lines that the faceplates on the helmets and it's like sort of make. This rangefinder was actually It was actually from AV minifigures. That unfortunately I glued into place. So the helmet did come with a rangefinder, and at first I had modified the rangefinder like in a way for like I could stick it to the side and move it up and down, but it turned out kind of clunky. So I went on to AV figures when they had finally restocked on the rangefinders to use that, and it looks great. But the hole is, the hole socket is slightly too big for this particular piece to connect to the helmet, so that way it can move it freely without it coming off. So I decided that since this minifigure probably won't be moving quite as much, I'll just go ahead and just glue it into the side for now. I'll work on something better in the future. But go ahead before we wrap it up to remove this so we could see a Bo-Katan head underneath the helmet. Now it's also some Procreate clay that wraps around the shoulders and goes all the way to the back. That's this part. This part I added in particular because I wanted to add that on, and I can actually remove the head without any damage into the shoulder part, into the shoulder pads. So I really enjoy that. But as you can see, we got a printed face on Bo-Katan, to match up with Bo-Katan. And she's got on the front, she's got sort of the neutral expression, and on the back we sort of get this sort of angered expression, both of which really match up with the character, and looks really cool. And overall, it was really fun painting on this minifigure. Again, I'm still practicing with the tiny symbols, and also some of the helmet detailing, and the rangefinder. I'm hoping to solve that problem in the future, but these are mistakes but mistakes are sort of ways for you to learn, so that way we can do better in the next minifigure. So I definitely plans to make modifications later on in the future. When I come up with a new plan to approach some of these specific points. But until then, this was still a fun project to make, and I really like how Bo-Katan came out. And last but certainly not least on our list is the simple man making his way through the galaxy like his father before him, Boba Fett. So pretty much for this minifigure, it was made around the same time that I was working on Bo-Katan, and the way how I approach this one is very much the same. So the base minifigure, is the official Lego Boba Fett minifigure from the new Slave 1 sets that I just used as sort of the base templates to apply on all of the armor pieces around the minifigure, and these came out really good. I do like how Nate's minifigure made each and every one of these pieces. I then went in with a base black paint, and this paints on the pieces, and then went back in with the colors to make them stand out. And now you could see the poorly painted painted symbol that Boba Fett has on the shoulder armor. On the back, he's got this sweet detailed jetpack which is also attached by micromagnets, so we can remove that. So we can see on the back, you can see a little bit of the official Lego printing underneath, because I didn't want to cover up that particular belt piece. On the side, with the arm, you can see these coils that connect up at the shoulder and then connect down here for the flame. This is either a flamethrower. Oh no, the flamethrower is on the other arm. This is sort of I believe it was supposed to be his little computer. But with these little wire pieces, I wanted to leave those on and not try to add some kind of wire onto here, because I felt that would have been it would have looked a bit clunky and also a bit messy with some glue and stuff. The rangefinder again is the same thing. Same thing with AV and with AV figures. Granted, this one stayed on a bit better, but again, the hole that I drilled in was a bit too big, so I had to glue it in for this one. But speaking on with the helmet, as you can see, it was fully painted up in this forest green coloration coloration for it. So I went back when and with like the detailing for like the red and the red outlines on the visor, the silver, bits of the gold, and then like these orange, like sort of tally marks, and a little bit on like these tiny arrows up here. You can't really see it, but there's some coloration into theirs. And then also with this cool dead piece that I love that Nate's minifigs like took the extra step for Boba Fett, and added in like this blaster dent onto this. I think this looks really really awesome, and it really adds more into the character. I went in with a little bit of silver to sort of like represent like the paint being chipped off that little dent. And speaking on more with some detailing, like we got another symbol on here, and here on the torso, armor. And before I go further on to like the belt and the waist, I do want to pull off the helmet for a second so we can get a look at the new Boba Fett, like printed face that Lego has officially made, and it looks really really cool. I really like it. And for comparison, if we pull out like Captain Rex from like the Clone Troopers, we can see of how very similar like both of these heads are. And I really like it how they do have like a bit of similarity with them, but for Boba Fett, they added in like a bit more like wrinkles. You can see like some of the scars that I'm pretty sure were from like the Sarlacc pit. And I really like that added and sort of like detail that they really added on for the character. And as you can see, like sort of like this scarf piece is entirely made of procreate clay. That it was in a way that I definitely wanted that to stand out more and applied on like with the armor and stuff, but I wanted it in a way for like I could put this on, but also for where I could remove the head without having it being like compromised in any way. So it was a bit of a process of a repeated like first like sculpting it out, and then it's then going back and with some detailing, and then just constantly like every now and then just like take the head, pull it off, and then put it back on repeatedly. And same thing with the helmet. Because I wanted the whole thing to like match up pretty well, and luckily the helmet like fits on perfectly like with the extra molding clay, and overall I really like how it came out. It was really really cool, and I'm definitely planning on using this technique making some modifications to my Ruby Rose minifigure from Ruby Volume 7, because I want to update on that one. The belt is a printed belt by Nate's minifigs, that is actually partially glued onto partially the torso and partially this waist cape. So I was running through like through like a bag of extra fabric pieces that I have like lying around that I mostly use for templates on making capes and stuff. And I came across this one waist fabric piece that when I put it on the minifigure, it was a perfect representation of Boba Fett's like waist fabric, or like waist cape that he has like on the show. And I just felt that like it's perfect for this. I have to use it, and it came out really really cool. I really like how this looks. It really looks amazing. Plus, it saved the headache on trying to make a fabric piece that would fit for this character, but not look too bulky as like stuff like that has happened in the past. And of course, he's not complete without his iconic blaster, an iconic like rifle blaster. This looks really really awesome. I got this in sort of like a weapons pack, that I bought like a few years ago. So to see, and this was like one of the weapons that was in this. So I had it like lying around, and I knew like when I was working on Boba Fett, I had to use it because it's just a really cool representation of like his arsenal in general. And overall, this was really really awesome. I really loved making this character. And same note that I would give for Bo-Katan, and then that rangefinder, if I could fix that, is that in a way for where it would work or where it'd be perfect. But apart from that, I really love how this turned out, and it was a really fun build to do. Alright, that is going to do it for this episode of LEGO Arts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and again, apart from the changes that I would make to some of these figures, this was a really fun project to do, and I like working on other Star Wars characters apart from Clone Troopers. I'll probably do another one, in the future if I decide to like what some other Clone Troopers I could do. But for now, I do plan to expand more to some other Star Wars characters. Like I definitely plan to do like both Anakin and Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, I know, and a few others, others from like the prequel and the original trilogies. I don't know if I'll do anyone from like the new Disney sequel trilogies, but I definitely plan to look back at the original and prequel trilogies. So I plan on working on some more projects like that in the future. And overall, that's gonna pretty much be it. It's like not else a whole lot to talk about, but I do plan to do an update vlog soon in the future, But for now, that is gonna pretty much be it. So if you guys want to check out like some of the other Lego projects that I made on the channel, like Kingdom Hearts, Detroit Become Human, God of War, the other Mandalorian showcases I've done, you can check them out in my Lego Arts playlist, that is on the channel. If you guys want to purchase like your own Mandalorian armor, or to make your own Mandalorian customs, I'll include links to AV figures, Nate's minifigs, and Micro Me, all in the description below. And go check them out because they make fantastic 3D parts, for all sorts of minifigures. And overall, that's gonna be it. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time in the next video. Bye bye.